Okay, so Carly and I always do these videos, and I play the dumb guy because I am the dumb guy. And I want to ask you the questions again. That's the basics around DNA. We get this all the time.
Yeah.
We think we know DNA, and we talk about DNA and DNA, epigenetics, and like what it is, etc. But let's climb into it for a second, because a lot of you out there are asking the basic questions like, what is this thing? Why should I do it? And I thought, let me sit down with Carly and present those questions, which I have too. Like, because I keep seeing these terms when I go on the internet and I go online, I see people talking about, like, it's coming up a lot now. And I'm seeing more and more
Podcasts,
people
yeah.
offering these DNA tests, and clients come up and they go, but wait a minute, why is yours so expensive? Or why is that? So let's get into that right now. So first of all, epigenetics.
Okay.
Just like, in a summary, just tell what someone like me that knows nothing about this space, what is it?
So epigenetics is basically the gene-environment interaction, right? So it's your genes that you're born with, the cards that you've been
Right.
dealt. How are those genes constantly communicating and working with the diet you're eating, the supplements you're taking, the air you're breathing, the
Right.
stress, sleep, exercise that you're doing. So all of those environmental factors are like little messages that are constantly being sent to your genes and can sort of turn up the brightness or turn down the brightness on
I like
certain
that.
genes. Yeah.
Right.
So it's like your genes have a dimmer switch. You can't delete a gene or like bring a gene back in, or
Right.
we can't do that, but that gene environment interaction can dim down the activity of certain genes or
Is this
turn
what
up
you
the
mean when they
brightness.
talk about, like, you can't control your genetics, but you can control the expression of your
100%.
genetics?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
example with me, I have a predisposition in my DNA
Yeah.
test for cholesterol.
Yeah.
Like you picked up that I
Yeah.
actually make bad cholesterol, even though I can eat vociferous veggies every single day.
And even though he's vegetarian.
Even though I'm
yeah.
I will still go and make the bad stuff.
Yeah.
So if I go and eat things in my diet, if my sleep's not right, if I introduce Smarties in bed every night, those things, because of my genetic disposition, I'm not dimming, I'm brightening that up.
100%.
And that
yeah.
leads to X, Y, and Z. And this is,
Yeah.
I guess, where preventative lifestyles kind of come in, right? So
Totally.
if I know more
Yeah.
about what I am, I can make those changes.
You can make better changes earlier on, and that's the key. So there's an equation that we think about, which your genes that you're born with are fixed. Like the structure of your genes, you can't change that. But then we have ever-changing environment, which encompasses all of those other moving parts, is what determines health or disease. So it's not just genes by themselves. And I think previously, maybe 20 years ago, we put so much emphasis on, oh, well, my mum had high cholesterol, so that's
Right.
it. I'm getting it. There's nothing I can do about it. That's where the narrative is starting to change. It's that let's identify where you carry risky genes and then understand through the evidence what changes we can make.
So when
prevent that.
this it kind of leads, it segues into another. So I get this. When should I do it? Should I wait till I'm like almost 50,
Okay.
or should I get it for my kids?
Yeah.
Should I give it to my mom and dad that's in their 70s and their 80s?
Yeah.
When should I be doing my DNA test?
Such a tricky question because it's so personalized. I think if you are old enough to understand and make changes and take the right supplements, do it as soon as you can.
Oh wow! So when you can comprehend the results and make the necessary
That would be
changes.
my opinion and my advice. If there's a family situation where a child is really struggling with whatever it might be, a food intolerance that can't be picked up, or something's off, their weight is really a struggle and they've tried everything else, then absolutely we can use DNA. Obviously it would be consulted with the parents and then they would implement it. But I've had teenagers do it and it was a gift, like you've done for your kids.
True.
It was a gift and like a roadmap for the rest of their life, and they were 15, 16, 17, 18. Like if the maturity level of the child is there, or the teenager can do it then. If the child is like newborn and there's no specific reason for doing it, I would advise to like wait a little bit, because each year the tests are getting better and better.
So I tell clients when they come into the store this all the time about DNA, because they'll tell me I'm doing the intermittent fasting, or I'm on keto, I'm doing this because it's done this, or I'm on this not mad rage, but I'm on this carnivore diet. Or I'm doing some other thing. And I always listen to them and they tell me, look, I did it and I've lost X amount of weight. But the question that you taught me to ask is, it may be working for you in the first 6 months to a year.
If that even.
If that.
Yeah.
You may lose the weight.
Yeah.
But your genetic disposition relative to what you've just incurred, because those are big shifts in diets, right? Like, I'm not going to eat for 14 hours. You may see the weight loss, but there could be ancillary or unintended consequences relative to that, right?
Yeah, especially anything that's that extreme. Like the intermittent fasting, look, there is evidence around it depending on the person. Again, you need to be guided by somebody who can actually assess all of those different components, your family history. Are you diabetic? Is there an issue with hyperglycemia or blood sugar imbalances? Can you be fasting for that long? Is there adrenal dysfunction? Are there all of these different things
So that
that
means
need to be
do it
decided
through
on?
the lens of your DNA before you begin. So
Or
like,
from a trained professional, from like a dietitian who can actually look at all of those
okay, cool.
components.
Nice, okay, cool. I love how they answer questions, these folks. They never like say it exactly. They're
Because
like,
it depends. Like if you ask a dietitian anything, how much like red meat can I eat? It depends. And like a lot of that, it depends, is the DNA. So like for example, with a carnivore diet, you might be losing weight, you might be, whatever the changes are. But if you've got a really high predisposition for inflammation and for, let's say, cholesterol, and you're not checking that and you're not monitoring that or doing it in a safe way, you could definitely run into bigger issues.
Okay, so let's get to the more basic questions, right?
Okay.
Why are our DNA tests so expensive? I get that all the time.
Yeah.
People look at it and they go, $4,000, $5,000, $8,000, etc. Like, why am I paying this amount when I go on Facebook and this company selling it for like 50% less, or like even sometimes 70% less? Why am I paying the Lisa Raleigh group like that amount of money?
I think the first thing is to consider when you're making a DNA purchase is every single DNA bundle on the e-store includes consultations to go through those DNA results with you.
Let me just repeat what Carly just said. That's so important that every DNA test has Carly in it.
Built into it.
It's not just the test. Why? Why is that so important?
We are really not a big fan of just dishing you your DNA information and you making sense of that by yourself. I think that can be dangerous. The results can be taken out of context and you're just not extracting the full benefit from the report itself. Like you getting maybe 50% of what the report can offer if you reading it as opposed to if a practitioner is reading it. And there's a lot of nuances, a lot of little intricacies there that somebody who's experienced in DNA needs to like match with your lifestyle. Like a feedback session is never the same because we want to make the results practical for that particular person sitting in front of us.
Makes sense.
And that's, we'll never just send a report and say, off you go, like
so
not going to talk to you.
What if I go off and I do the cheaper reports and then I get Carly?
So D-Analysis, which is a company we work with, don't allow their reports to be done direct to consumer. So you can't go and just order it and get the information. You have to have it interpreted by a healthcare practitioner. But there are companies that are offering it on online shops that you can just buy a DNA test. A DNA test is not a DNA test. If you know what I mean? Like there's a huge difference between, the quality of certain things. And a lot of the genes that are used are not the same. So the genes, let's say, that make up our methylation panel could be totally different. We might be using 8 genes, whereas that company might be using 1 or 2. So the reliability of the information that you're getting is just completely different.
So just so you guys know, that's exactly why, 2 things. I think we went with DNA analysis, is what she just said, is that deeper quality and that verbosity in terms of the approach. 1. Number 2 is that we wrapped Carly into it for a particular reason. And we took a while before we got to Carly. And I'll just say that from a business perspective, we didn't just go get a dietitian and wrap a dietitian up with our genetic tests either. It took a while for us to get to know Carly. I mean, the journey has been a while. It's been years now that we've been together.
3.5 years?
Something like that, 4 years. And I will say that every single DNA test that you've ever done, no client has ever come to us and said, man, I wish I just had the thing myself and I could have just gone off and done it without. Every single feedback that I get is, thank God it's bundled with Carly because now it like really makes sense. Because even DNA Core, which we've launched not too long ago, the statement there was it's much easier to comprehend and it's a little bit more layman. But when I went through Amber's one, she got her report back, Amber's our middle daughter, and I went through her report recently. I was like, okay, I can sort of make out what this is, but I still can't figure out what it is. Okay, so you've answered the question around it being
consults are included.
Consulting included.
Because a lot of people actually still don't know that. They come and see me and then they're like, oh, how do I pay for the consult? I'm like, no, you've paid, that's included. So I think that's like a big myth. All consults are included, whether it's DNA core, whether it's DNA health, whether it's DNA belly, the consults are bundled into that.
Okay.
And sometimes, depending on the number of tests that you do, it can take 2, 3, 4 consults. So it's a lot of time, and like a lot of time that goes into interpreting the results and explaining it and all of that. And then it's the quality of the actual test that we're using. It's not just some,
Okay, this is another one. Why does it take so long? I get this all the time. I do the test, I get my fingers pricked, I send in the sample. Why does it take 2 weeks, 3 weeks to get to Carly?
So sometimes 3, sometimes 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Now D-Analysis is using an outside lab as well, so there's often, inevitably, there are sometimes delays. There needs to be, I think it's something like 90 or 100 samples to go into the machine to get extracted. So they're not going to run this very expensive machine with one sample in it. They need a lot of DNA samples in there to do a cycle. That cycle takes several days. Then the results need to be extracted. They need to be put into the format of the report, needs to be uploaded, sent to me. So there's like a lot of steps, and it's not like a blood test, right? And extracting DNA is a much more technical process than doing a blood test, like a diabetes screening or whatever it is.
So wait, this is important, because this is another question.
Yeah.
Why don't I just go get a blood test done? I get that all the time in the store. Well, I've done
Really?
my bloods. People still on the bloods. I go everything according to my blood.
And bloods are so important, 100%, but bloods are ever changing. So if you did your cholesterol today and then you ate 200 boxes of Smarties, and then next month the cholesterol will be different. So your bloods are always fluctuating, but your DNA is fixed. Once you've done your DNA report and you've got that information, that result is not going to change. So that's why it's different. And I do like to use blood tests to supplement the DNA, absolutely, to get like a full picture. But it changes, so you will need to repeat that blood test every 6 months, sometimes every 3 months.
That's exactly what you did with me. And just by the way, just coming back to that expensive thing too, I'll never forget when I did mine with you. And I was lucky because I got Carly to come into my bathroom and take a look at the vitamins in my cupboard.
If we could do that with everyone, we would.
But I guess in the consultation, someone could just grab a snapshot of that and show you.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, it's written down on a form before I see them.
There you go. And
so
you saw me, because I am an all or nothing character. I haven't had
200 boxes of supplements.
every alphabet of vitamin I had in my cupboard, because hey, I've got to get everything right, all my vitamins. That was one, and the other one was just what I wanted to tell you. So ever since, what was it, like a year and a half ago, I have not had a Smartie.
Oh.
Yeah, I went from being a Smartie addict.
Yeah.
I haven't had a Smartie since.
But what's it been replaced by?
Nothing.
I'll ask Lisa.
Nothing.
Okay.
She's sitting close by. She can't say anything. Don't she say anything? But no, I don't think I replaced it. I actually went quite good. Now and again I do.
Milk tart.
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Chocolate cake.
Okay.
No, but I don't. Like, I'm not doing it like 11 o'clock at night.
Fine.
You know,
but also your cholesterol's come down beautifully, so you can be a little bit more moderate now.
Lisa's going 10 p.m.
An hour earlier. Yeah.
Okay, so you won't do third-party tests. It's got to be an all-inclusive thing, right?
Well, yeah, oftentimes people message me and they say, I've done X, Y, and Z DNA test. Can you interpret the results for me? To be honest, no. Like, D-Analysis is my preferred brand to work with. I know the validity that goes into it. They have researchers working constantly designing the tests, checking that genes are still relevant, that they still have practical, evidence behind them. It's just, it's a really trustworthy company that, we work with.
Here's the last one. I think it's the most important one. So when I do this, I can then make targeted changes, because now so I'm going to see results,
100%.
right?
Yes.
How long?
Okay, results in what context?
So I want to
lose weight.
My cholesterol, by the way, took a year. Just so you guys know, it took a year for my cholesterol to get from, oh my word, something's not right, to a year to, oh my word, it's like completely gone. Perfect.
Yeah.
It was a year. So these changes are like.
Was it that long?
I don't know. I did it because
Maybe
I
like
went.
8 months.
Yeah, I mean, 8 months is a long time, right? But I mean, that's what people are looking for, quick fixes all the time. But what I will say is, once it is 8 months, it becomes more lifestyle.
It becomes
driven.
a habit.
It becomes a habit versus quickly doing that and then
take
it's a
this
change.
pill and it's done.
So how long? I mean, so I go do my weight. I'm looking for. Obviously, weight loss is going to be a thing. Inflammation reduction, just generically speaking. When I get the test, I do the consultation with Carly. what should my expectations be post all of this intervention happening to when I'm going to see weight reduction or a change in my body, or, how long?
I think it depends. Again,
Okay,
it
right.
definitely depends. And when we go through the consult, I'll be able to look at certain genes and certain pathways that can give me more info on that. So everybody loses weight at different rates.
Right.
Okay, and that is something that's covered in the DNA tests. So we can see what is your rate of weight loss that you can expect. Generally, it's between 0.5 kilo and 1 kilo of fat loss a week. But it depends on how hard you
Right.
work. It
How
depends on
dedicated you
how
are, yeah.
strictly you stick to the eating plan. It depends on how well you're training, how well you're sleeping, are you managing stress, are you taking your supplements. I see a lot of clients, and most of them only do about 70% at best of what I tell them to do. I've got a few that are amazing, and I'm like, what have you been having for breakfast? Exactly as the eating plan says. What have you been having for lunch? And they get results quick sticks.
Quickly.
If you really set your mind to it and do it properly,
Right.
you will get results. Things with the gut, like gut health imbalances, dysbiosis, that can take a little bit longer to get right and start seeing results. Some people I've had also with terrible constipation who are only going to the loo once every 2 weeks, every 10 days.
What?
Yeah,
Once every 2 weeks?
yeah, easy. Sometimes once a week. I know it is. It's
Whoa.
horrible.
Wow.
On the right supplementation and diet according to their DNA, we start seeing regularity every 3 days, every 2 days. So sometimes I'm even shocked. I'm like, whoa, okay, that was quick. But it really does depend on the person. And
Sure.
like, I think being patient is just super important, because the diet that you derive from your DNA needs to be your diet forever. It's
Right.
not a 3-week cleanse. It's not a quick fix. Needs to be sustainable. It needs to be a lifestyle.
Okay, last thing.
So,
I want to drop this question in. As a dietitian, you see a lot of people. I know that you've probably, are you close to 1,000?
Way over.
You've
Yeah.
done more than 1,000 DNA tests,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So with that and your traditional eating plans and everything else that you do, because you do so many other things. So there's 2 questions actually. I want to ask you this one and I'll end with another one. But exercise and movement. And then you do rebounding. I know that you're like a rebounding addict now, and you do it all the time. And I think your fiance does it too. I've seen pictures of him.
Don't like him using my rebounder.
I got to teach him how to set it up first. Yeah. So we just talk about that physical movement relative to a dietetic intervention. How important is it? And
Game changer, yeah. So, but it's got to be the right exercise. So obviously I'm biased, but I think it is so important to get your mindset into the right state for being disciplined, for being accountable, for showing up on time, even if you don't necessarily feel like it. Exercise helps you do that. And I think starting the day with exercise, you're not going to want to go and eat a chocolate cake and ruin your amazing workout that you did. So it helps with that motivation, and it helps with that like consistency,
Right.
but also the endorphins and the feel good feelings
Right.
that come from it are like, you can't put a price. It's so crucial.
So why rebounding?
The impact, number one.
Right.
I was chatting to somebody literally before I came here, and she said that she tried running, but she had sore knees and sore hips,
Right.
and this was in her 20s. I'm like, imagine in your 60s, if you carry on with running, what's going to happen? So the low impact, the inflammatory benefit, anti-inflammatory benefit, the detox benefit, the power and endurance in one, the fact that you don't have to drive to, a gym 30 minutes away, you don't have to sit in traffic, like, it's just, yeah.
That's coming from a dietitian. That's lovely.
But
to
how
hear.
many other dietitians are also rebounding, by the way?
No.
Also,
Well, there's a couple.
yeah,
We know a
yeah,
few. But like,
there's lots.
there's
Which is
a lot.
amazing.
That is amazing, and
Yeah.
we keep hearing people like. So the last one is the 15-minute consult, because this is a big one. People go to the website, they pick it's 380 something bucks, so it's very cost effective, and they get you for 15
And they
minutes.
get the money back if they go ahead with a DNA test or whatever
See,
it
I've
is.
never mentioned that. So you get the 380 bucks if there's
Well,
a
we'll
follow-on.
take it off the invoice. Yeah.
Okay, but what always happens with you with these 15-minute consults is that people then try to kind of
Make it into a proper consult,
Yeah,
which is
so just be
not.
careful
Yeah.
with that. What is the purpose of that 15 minutes? What do you want
To
someone
decide
to come?
what DNA test they want to do. So
That's
if
it.
if you go onto the eStore and I want to do DNA core, that is the one I want, you don't need a pre-consult.
Okay.
Okay, that's not necessary. But if you like, do I need DNA Mind? Do I need resilience? Do I need med check? I'm not sure. These are my medical conditions. This is my family history. I need Carly to help guide me in the right direction.
Right.
That's what the pre-consult
So
is
it's just
for.
about selecting which DNA test is relative to you.
Or if DNA testing is even necessary,
Necessary.
maybe you don't need it. Maybe you just need the standard consultant eating plan. So it's to help guide you with those different options. But it's not a full consult eating plan advice giving session. It's just impossible to do that in 15 minutes.
So
We
I think it's a brilliant way to close this, because like, what do I do from here? That's what I always tell clients when they come into the store, when I speak to someone is,
yeah.
just don't, you can get frazzled by the amount of DNA tests. There's a lot of DNA tests. They're complicated. You go and look at the videos on our e-store, you go to wellness and underneath their DNA, even that's complicated. I mean, that's Lisa and Carly riffing. And when they do it, I'm like, I'll go blank because it's just so complicated. Go and do the 380 something buck 15-minute pre-consult with Carly. Go to the website and just type in pre-consult and it'll pop up. Just start there. That's the gate. And in that 15 minutes, you can tell Carly, listen, I'm dependent on these drugs. I drink X amount of alcohol. This is kind of how I feel right now. Here are my broad goals and ambitions, and it's either my mind or my sleep or it's my weight. In that 15 minutes, all of that gets captured, and Carly will say, okay, go do these 2 or 3 things. And again, when you get that test back, that's when you want to go into a deeper consultation.
That's when we sit into the detail, yeah. So in the session, you have to fill out a whole form, a whole consult form. Then we unpack all of that information together. We go through what are the main target areas. Then we'll go through the DNA results. Then we'll decide on next plans. Do you need an eating plan? I'll send you your supplement prescription. We'll go through what the next steps are. Do you need more regular follow-ups? Do you need to see me maybe every 2 weeks, every month, until we get to your goal? What is going to work best for you. So yeah, that's how it works.
Yeah, I mean, it's for me, it is probably the best health investment you could ever make. So if you take a look at our business, there's kind of 3 gates that people come into the business. They either go to Bodykind because they love the athleisure, and then they kind of get to know Lisa, and then they want to make a change because it becomes aspirational, and then they go do DNA, etc. Or they go Rebound, and then they're bouncing and they're seeing changes, but now they want to kind of close the circle and things, and then they go do their DNA. Or they start with DNA or a lifestyle intervention. And I just want to say, if you're watching this is probably the greatest investment I think that you can make. You can go buy a rebounder and start rebounding, sure. You can go get your athleisure and be aspirational in terms of what you put on your body. But I think the thing that is sustainably impactful is when it's data driven. It's not opinion. There's just too many of these fad diets going around. We hear them all the time. And what we always hear is when people having been on them, and it had its impact, but now here's the long-term impact. And now they're sitting with this issue, inflammation, eczema, some autoimmune thing. And then, then it requires someone like Carly to kind of decipher that. So don't wait. You want to give a gift. This is probably the best gift that you could give somebody is go find out what you are uniquely made of. Make changes relative to that. And I mean, I've seen it, I live it, and Carly has guided me, and it's just been incredible.
We should do a video with your blood tests and show how everything's actually changed. We've got that proof on a piece of paper where
who saw the big change?
Changed.
It was Mark Ostrovsky.
Yeah.
He did my gut and my colonoscopy, and he went, whoa.
And now it's all diet. Staf didn't take any meds, by the way.
I didn't do any meds.
So,
and when I got diagnosed, remember what the doctor said? Statins.
Straight away.
I went to the doctor, but he said statins, and I was driving in the car, and I was telling Lisa, oh my God, I'm going on to statins. And then when I contacted Carly was like, no, wait. Now listen, we don't want to say
that no one should go on statins.
That's not okay. But for Carly knew my circumstance, and said, Staf, first step, do this. And then there was one little supplement, which is plant-based. He said, keep doing that, and let's get off these other things. Let's do your bloods. This is what your blood says. And I mean,
the results were
but
insane.
You know what? I felt it. Literally within the first couple of days, I felt different.
Yeah.
Sleep changed, everything changed with just those few changes. So it is the best investment that you can make, in my opinion. Right? If you had to choose which one in our brands you go down, I'd say DNA. Get onto that pre-consult, find out who you are quickly with Carly, do that DNA test, and watch transformations happen, sustainable transformations happen.
Yeah.
Okay,
cool.
Madam DNA Whisperer, thank you for your time.
Pleasure.
Okay.